you can make it. Come on down to a regional. They're all available on the Pokemon.com website to
Never
take a
too
look
late
at.
to get started. Yeah, there's plenty of ways to get involved. Go ahead and start competing. You could start playing tomorrow and still get your invite to Yokohama, Japan.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget, if you're a North American player, which I imagine a lot of them are, even European players, you know, who I know watch a lot of these pieces of content, you've got your internationals coming up. Actually, every region has their internationals ahead of them. We're starting off with Latin America, then we move on over to Oceania, North America, Europe, and then North America.
Right.
So there's a lot of Pokemon still available to play. Don't be, you know, disheartened that you maybe kind of missed out on the first three. Don't be wrong, they've been fantastic, and you should be feeling like you missed out. That's where you got to come to the next one.
Yes, the international championships. I mean, talk about another great way to get championship points. If you win one of those, you get to the 500 points mark. Those tournaments are so tough, but they pay out so much CP all the way down. So it's a great way for players from all regions all across the world to have a really solid shot at earning a Worlds invite.
I like how you say if you win one of those, as if it's just like, oh yeah, just turn up, do well for a couple rounds. Like, yeah, it's fine. 500 points and nice big prize payout. Very, very nice as well. So plenty going on there. But it looks like we're getting very, very close to round number 9. I do love a good winning in. It's always a game that's high pressure. They can't come and sit down for the intentional draw. It's got to be played, and it's tough. I mean, there is, of course, that dangerous world. We ran into it in Peoria, where if you draw, neither of you make it, and that causes chaos.
It's a really big feels bad. Let's get down to the table. These two players are shuffling up, getting ready to get our game underway. And I'm excited for this one. Adam, we've got Kian Amini on the left, an excellent player from the West Coast, and he's going to be going up against Anthony Perez on the right side.
Yeah, these players who do well on the West Coast usually seem to keep on going on that side. I think both of them doing very, very well. And we're going to take a look at two different decks as well. We're going to keep things going. Kian Amini is going to be playing that Radiant Charizard powered by the Lost Zone engine.
Yes.
It's very weird. We're actually having a conversation about it. Is it truly a Lost Box? Well, yeah, I guess it is. You know, it's got kind of the Radiant Charizard, the Drapion, but it kind of does the same thing every time. It's not like it adapts to each matchup.
Yeah, there's really kind of just two main attackers, three main attackers, I guess. The Sableye, the Cramorant, and the Charizard. The Drapion just a tech for a certain matchup. So feels a little bit less like a toolbox deck, a traditional toolbox deck, just having a ton of different attackers that you utilize depending on what matchup you are up against. And Anthony Perez is going to be playing something we know very, very well, Origin Form Palkia V-Star. Undoubtedly the best deck in the format, is what many players would consider at least.
Well, I think, you know, looking at the numbers coming into this tournament, we obviously looked at the graphic a little bit earlier, myself and Kyle, and it was, of course, the Giratina that ruled the roost, powered by the Lost Zone. Now, that is something that, you know, a lot of people are really exciting. It's new, it's shiny, it's fun. But I think if you're looking at best in format, you really do have to give Palkia credit for its longevity, for how it's been doing so far in the regional championships from Baltimore. Obviously, that was before the release of Lost Origin, but Baltimore coming into Peoria, still sticking around, and then, of course, coming into Salt Lake and still being ever present as well. So it definitely holds, you know, a really solid position in the metagame, and I just don't see it going anywhere. None of that support for it has been kind of limited. It's certainly going to be a way to play. But the prizes are coming down for both these trainers. So on the Sobbles, a Manaphy, Melanie, 2 Melanie actually for Anthony Perez. So that could be a bit of a problem. And then a mixed bag for Kian Amini. One of those fire energy that is important when you're trying to close out with the Charizard later on. The Escape Rope, the Switch Cart, and a Clara as well, which is another big one.
And that Echoing Horn could be a little annoying. That's a pretty important card in this matchup as a way to bring back Sobbles over and over again and just keep bullying them. That's really kind of what Kian wants to do, is bully Sobbles multiple times over by using that Lost Mine attack on the Sableye, placing 6 damage counters on 2 different Sobbles as many times as he possibly can.
Yeah, but you know, you got to make sure that they're taken care of as well. I mean, the Sobble is something that's nice and easy for the Cramorant to potentially get taken out with as well, with that Spit Innocently, once you do have access, of course, to your Lost Provisions ability, which is surprisingly easy to hit. But we're going down to the table now as the trainers hit their openers. It's going to be a Radiant Greninja in the active for Anthony Perez, a Sableye in the active for Kian Amini, and that Radiant Greninja immediately says, see you later, Water Energy. I'm going to concealed cards for 2 more. Doesn't look like there's another basic in the hand.
Yeah, that's
it's looking a little bit bleak here. As we're looking at it, there we go. Path of the Peaks. We got an Inteleon. We got a V-Star for the Palkia, but a pass.
Just that's not great from Anthony Perez, and it is actually possible, though it is difficult. It is possible for Kian to win this turn if he can get 4 cards in the Lost Zone. power up the Cramorant's the ability to use its attack for free. And if he can use Galarian Zigzagoon 2 times, that's 130 damage exactly. Spit Innocently plus the 2 damage counters from Galarian Zigzagoon. That's enough to KO the Radiant Greninja.
Yeah, well, he's got a Battle VIP pass, so we can start getting those pieces. One of those pieces is going to have to be the Comfey to get the flower selecting going. That's going to be a way to get a couple of things in there, but he's also going to need a number of switching cards, which I haven't seen access to in the hand. Looks like we're taking, when you're looking over at his hand, there's also going to be the Colress's Experiment, I believe.
Huge.
Is that Rainbow Supporter? So there's 2, so you need to get a couple flower selectings in. You also need to get this Sableye out the active. There is an energy in hand, could retreat it manually, but then you need switch cards for this Comfey, and that is going to be very, very difficult. There's also a Quick Ball, which could help him out when it comes to...
That can get the Zigzagoon, right?
Get the Zigzagoon, yeah. 2 Comfey making a lot of sense here, but also still needs to get the Cramorant out as well.
Yeah, so I think that Kian is going to keep this in his mind that it is possible for him to win, but he's not playing to it. There's no reason for him to dig super hard and burn a bunch of resources and try to win this turn, because he's already going to have a better setup than his opponent. Anthony did not bench a Sobble, did not bench a Palkia, so even if Kian doesn't win the game this turn, he is still very, very far ahead. So he'll keep it in the back of his mind, okay, it is possible for me to get this KO. We'll see if I get the pieces. If I do, good for me. If I don't, I'm still loving my spot.
I mean, there is a world where you get the craziest Colress's Experiment of all time with 2 completely useless cards and then a bunch of switching cards, maybe even the Cramorant off that as well. But still a long way to go. Yeah, there's the Colress's Experiment. So 5 off the top. Making sure those are counted up correctly. Oh, there's a Cramorant. I believe that's a switch card in there as well.
But a couple supporters is pretty awkward.
Yeah, is that the Marnie?
Yes.
And another Colress's Experiment. So I think you take the Colress maybe to keep going next turn.
Yeah, losing the energy feels a little bad though, because you only have a handful of them, and also that's a way for you to retreat a Comfey to use multiple switching effects in a turn potentially. Looks like that will still go to the Lost Zone, though.
Yeah, it's going to be the Marnie. Also very approving of these energies. Some of my favorite, the Heart God Soul Silver.
Hey, listen,
Kyle.
I was going to say something about Anthony's over there. I'm a big fan. Those are my favorite, the Holon Phantoms on the other side of things.
Yeah, well, there's the switch card. It's going to be the Comfey into the active. It's going to be a flower selecting, a Battle VIP pass, and a Poké Gear. Usually the Battle VIP pass would be an easy throwaway for the flower selecting, but not when it's turn 1.
Not at all.
He's able to go after that with the maybe go and get some extra pieces out. But, it set up the bench really, really nicely too. That said, I don't think he's going to be able to get another flower selecting down unless, it could be the retreat into it, go retreat, and then, still going to need to make some plays with the Zigzagoon, though.
Yeah, I don't think that the win this turn is happening. I'm pretty sure it's impossible based on this combination of cards in hand. So Kian's just going to try to set up as much as possible. We may still see that retreat and still go for the Comfey. Maybe try to find one more switching card so you can at least hit with the Cramorant this turn. Even still, if you're not taking the knockout, putting 110 damage in play is pretty solid, and the Zigzagoon cleanup is still available to you potentially later on, unless Anthony was to play a Scupo-Net or something like that.
Yep, well, it's going to be another Comfey and the Manaphy coming down for Kian Amini, making sure that that bench is nice and safe with the Wave Veil attack ability there, preventing all damage from attacks. So, something trying to spread that damage around isn't going to be an option with the Manaphy. And with these Inteleon decks, there are, of course, options to be able to do that. So, something that I think Kian has been very respectful of, very heads up of, because those little bits of damage can add up quite nasty on something like the Comfey, which doesn't exactly have a high hit point.
No, yeah, Manaphy is a huge card in this matchup because of Radiant Greninja specifically. That card is just so powerful. And the fact that you can power it up in one turn with Origin Form Palkia V-Star. Now, granted, we are pretty far away from Anthony doing anything like that. But Kian will just attach an energy for turn to the Sableye. And it seems like we may see a pass, but not before putting down the Path to Peak, and that is huge.
Yeah, make sure that this concealed cards isn't available. One of those very nice-looking energies is in the hand, but it's not going to be able to dig anymore. I don't know if there's any option. Oh, there's the Irida. So being able to at least get another Pokemon out here, really big for Anthony. But an item is going to be very important here. There's the Palkia V. So we'll be able to get that Palkia V-Star going in the next turn, and is finally able to look through his deck, actually, and see what he needs. The item could help out as well, maybe something like a Quick Ball to grab another Pokemon and get things going. There is the Inteleon in hand. They see all the Palkia being collected there as well. So plenty of those available, but just checking the hand before making sure that all the pieces are there to maybe try and get set up in the next couple turns. That said, it's not going to be this turn.
Yeah, Anthony would love to get down a Sobble here and hopefully try to establish a Drizzile next turn, get that up and rolling as quick as possible. And I don't think it's possible with this hand for him to get more than one Sobble in play, which is really, really tough. He could if he went around getting a Palkia, but I think Palkia has to be priority number one.
I think as well, once you have the Palkia V-Star in hand, it just makes a lot of sense, so you can get the hand thinned out a little bit and get access to the important cards. So yeah, there's the Pokemon. There's going to be that Palkia V, and making sure, I think you have to go for an item to really help you out here.
So I think Anthony does have the scoop up net in hand, so something he could do is grab a level ball and then scoop up net and use keep calling this turn to establish a bunch of Sobbles potentially. But instead of going for a level ball or quick ball, some way to get a Sobble out, he's chosen for the Capacious Bucket route.
Yeah, Capacious Bucket grabbing another pair of those very nice looking energies. That is the Irida complete. But
Come on, you got to admit it. Those are definitely way better than the Heart Gold Soul Silver energies, right?
I think it depends. It depends on the energy for Heart Gold Soul Silver. Honestly, like the water one.
It depends on what Pokemon is featured.
The water one, I do like this one a little bit more. I think the Lugia, not my favorite, but the Psychic one, and of course the Dark one as well with that Espeon Umbreon combination, absolutely beautiful. But looks like we're going to be just charging up this Origin Form Palkia V the old-fashioned way, Chip. Manual attachments, getting all of those options down. There's the scoop-up net. Hey. Oh, and this could be big, actually, with the Palkia V being able to cause some problems. The scoop-up net puts that Radiant Greninja down. And
here comes the Rule the Region. Searching the deck out for a Stadium card. Anthony really wanting to get this Path to the Peak out of here.
Yeah, that Path to the Peak isn't going to be able to get knocked out this turn, though. And I mean, I don't really see the line where Kian disrupts the hand. We obviously saw that Marnie go into the Lost Zone, so I think all options for that are probably gone until later in the game when a potential Roxanne comes on.
Yep.
But, you know, at least we'll get a concealed cards the next turn. So Rule the Region, potentially bailing Anthony out in the following turn. There's another Chorus's Experiment, though. This Lost Zone is going to start looking quite full quite quickly.
So I wonder if Anthony here is trying to play around putting too many Sobbles in play. Potentially could have gone for the keep calling like I mentioned, but instead is maybe trying to play things a little more slowly and try to see if he can just go through this game with just his Palkia. If he can ride on the back of a couple of Palkias, they have so much HP and can be difficult for this Lost Zone engine deck to deal with.
Man, these are tough choices for Kian, especially if he's figured out what's in the prizes. The Battle VIP Pass, an easy throwaway, but the Clara, obviously one of them is prized, and that definitely limits your options. That said, you know, both the Clara and the Magma Basin are important for this Radiant Charizard close, and that is something that is going to be a tough decision. The Cramorant being put in there as well.
Okay.
There's already one in the hand, so I kind of like that one. I don't know if Cramorant's going to be the main attacker here. So we're up to 5. That does mean Lost Provisions is active, and that is going to be big in this one. Flower selecting, going to get us a little bit more easy choice. Scoop up net in hand, scoop up net in the Lost Zone.
Yep. Pretty easy choice whenever you just see 2 of the same card off the flower selecting. Seems like Kian may just be going for a hit, a little spit innocently with the Cramorant, put a little bit of damage in play, and that's all you really want to do with this deck. Get some damage in play every single turn if you can. He missed the turn 1 attack, so getting off a turn 2 attack, not too bad, especially considering how your opponent has set up so poorly so far.
Yeah, Lost Provisions helping out there. Activated very quickly, going up from 3 to 6 in that turn. So not a huge push for the Lost Zone there, like you say, just really going for that slow and steady, racking it up.
Yes. And with Kian's deck, you know, there's no Mirage Gate, so he doesn't really care about getting to that 7 Lost Zone card number. It's all about getting to 4 for Cramorant and then 10 for Sableye. So he's not really pressured to go between a bunch of Comfeys as quickly as possible. He has the time to maybe go for something like that on this next turn. He's got the Pal Pad in hand, which can put back a couple Chorus's Experiment, and he can maybe hit one off of the Pal Pad he's holding on to. On Anthony's side, though, getting rid of that Stadium Training Court comes down pretty nice.
Path to the Peak gone. That means Concealed Cards is back online. Another Palkia off the top there, so being able to keep things going. And Irida too. Very nice to see all this coming through, as Anthony had a pretty shocking start, honestly, but does need to find a way to dig out another energy. If we're going to evolve, we're going to subspace swell. It's going to be a lot of work to get this one going, but Irida allows him to go back in the deck, get a water Pokemon and an item. That is definitely some tough old choices there for him, as he needs to get some Pokemon down on the bench. I mean, we've still not seen any of these Sobble.
And it makes me wonder, I mean, we'll see. Let's see what Anthony grabs here off of the Irida. If he goes for a Sobble, you know, he's going to try to play the game pretty normally, maybe with just a couple of Sobbles in play. But if he's going for that Origin Form Palkia V, I mean, theoretically, if you just put a couple of Origin Form Palkia V-Stars up and make Kian go through 3 Origin Form Palkia V-Star, I mean, that's difficult to do.
It's hard to do when you're only doing 110 or you're dropping 12 damage counters
Right.
every turn. That's a lot of health, and while that is happening, you're very readily getting knocked out by Subspace Swell. I mean, you have to go wide on your board. If you're Kian, you need the Comphase, you need the Mana Fee in this one, so you are giving over that damage. And once again, it's going to be a Palkia and the Capacious Bucket, so another energy or 2, there we go, coming into the hand. That does mean that you're going to be able to keep things going with manual attachments, maybe even throw some pieces away if you want a full star portal here. And there are, of course, cards in the hand that help you thin that one out. So let's see what we go for. First of all, we're going to evolve the active one. That's now really difficult to knock out really quickly because that damage is racking up. There's the manual attachment to get Subspace Swell active, and it looks like we're going to be trying to get another Palkia down. So the Palkia goes down. There's another one. Let's see what we got.
I'm really interested to see how this strategy is going to play out for Anthony. It's a risky one because your deck is so reliant on utilizing shady dealings turn after turn.
Yep, well, there's 1 energy, there's 2 energy. Not full value, but at least getting 1 on each of them, so it's easily to manually attach. And then, of course, swing with Subspace Swell, and there's the knockout on Cramorant. So first prize, even after that slow start, goes to Anthony Perez.
And someone might be confused, why would Anthony use the Star Portal V-Star power now? You're only getting 2 energies, and you already have the energies you need. But it's because he wants to play around Kian, putting another path to the peak in play. If he can make sure that he uses it when he's getting good value, you'd rather use it for 2 than not get to use it at all.
That's way better value, and considering how much work it took for him to find that training court too, it's nice to be able to get there. So a Pokegear 3.0, being able to grab another one of those Colress's experiments.
Huge hit, and Kian didn't even play the Pal Pad in
the
hand.
audacity.
Wants to hold on to that, I imagine, for some of the tech supporters, maybe like Boss's Orders or Clara, potentially, hoping that he can reutilize those powerful one-of individual cards that he plays.
Yeah, that would be a really nice way to end the game. And if you don't need to, play the Pal Pad to hit the Colress's experiment, then why not? I do think there's a lot of work being asked of the Sableye in this one. Don't forget, I think we've lost 1 Cramorant, and we've got 1 in the lost zone.
Yeah, that's right.
So could be a big pressure on Sableye to come online. The Drapion, an easy discard there. That's not going to be relevant in this matchup. And I believe that's the follow-up of... let me take a look.
Yeah, some other full art supporter. I think could it be another Colress potentially there, hitting the lost zone. Air Balloon can move this Comfy now, and we'll see another flower selecting. It looks like Kian now going to 10 cards in the lost zone after this flower selecting.
Oh.
2 pretty brutal cards, a Colress and a Sableye.
Yeah, and the extra Sableye is coming into the hand because that Colress going into the lost zone does mean we're at the magic number. We're at 10, and Lost Mine is going to be dropping 12 damage counters every single turn. So Comfey removed from the active there with the switch cart, and it's going to be up to Kian to be very tactful on where he puts these down. There's that path to the peak you were talking about, Chip, making sure that the Star Portal isn't available anymore, if it was still available, which it's not, because it's already been used. And then we're just going to be able to say, no concealed cards, though. That does help.
Very, very good for Kian to still get it down.
Yeah, but, I mean, 12 damage counters a turn, that's not really that many when you look at the hit points that are available on something like the Palkia V-Star, something like the Palkia V. Even the Radiant Greninja not going to get readily knocked out by that. It's going to take a lot of turns of Sableye to get us there.
Yeah, this is going to be a slog for Kian to pull this off. I was double-checking the list real quick from Anthony. Something that I've seen from Palkia players in the past is a copy of Cheryl. That would have been really spicy, but Anthony is not playing that, so not going to be any sort of healing option that, would have given reason as to maybe why Anthony was going for this line of play. But no, Anthony just feels like this is the best way to go about it. Don't worry about not using shady dealings, just really heavily relying on the top deck turn after turn.
Talking to some of the Cheryl players in Peoria, they did seem a little bit underwhelmed with it.
Yeah.
Did feel that it was a little bit too niche, a little bit too cheeky, so I think a lot of people will be foregoing it here in Salt Lake City. That's just the way to go. These Path to the Peaks aren't going to be sticking around. It looks like the Temple of Sinnoh is going to be coming. If you really need to bump it, it's an option, and it does give you access to concealed cards, so why not?
I mean, this is the only way Anthony's drawing more cards this game. There's no good supporter for him to utilize, so wants to conceal cards and try to find something else here.
Oh, another Palkia V-Star as well, and that's just going to increase the health, meaning it's going to be even harder to knock it out with this Sableye and its Lost Mine every single turn, so plenty to get through there. I mean, you've got 1 Palkia V, a nice, manageable number. The other 2 are at 280.
and he did draw into an Irida off of that concealed cards as well. So that's an option to get the third and final Origin Form Palkia V-Star set up. So this line from Anthony, I mean, he's got the attackers established, and after you've gotten to that point, when you have the 3 different Palkias in play, you don't really need any other cards. You just KO whatever's in Kian's active, maybe try to play a boss when you top deck one at some point. But yeah, whenever you're not having to rely on shady dealings, if you've got just your 3 attackers set up and you're able to one-hit KO these low HP Pokemon on Kian's side pretty easily, this is a super interesting line for Anthony, and it's honestly looking pretty good for him right now.
Yeah, I'm really liking the way he's been setting this one up. So being able to make sure the bench is doing very, very well is going to be a big old ask for Kian. And he didn't get that explosive start that I think a lot of people would have wanted. Didn't reach early on. I mean, honestly, this is going to take so many turns. If even if he goes after the Radiant Greninja, that makes it a 7-prize game. Don't like that particularly very much. But just getting through those Origin Form Palkia V-Stars alone is 840 damage required. That is absolutely crazy, and that is a lot of turn of lost mining. He still has to hit, of course, the energy every single time. He still has to hit the Sableye every single time. So I think, that's going to be probably just too far to go.
Yeah, that is a really, really high amount of damage to try to get through.
7 Lost Mines.
Yeah, that's a lot of turns of using Lost Mine. And at this point, Anthony's set up to just be able to take KO after KO after KO. With this setup, I actually don't even know if there's much Kian can do, which is crazy to see that Anthony's been able to set this up this early on in this game.
I don't think he has the time to do it. I think, honestly, the Sableyes are going to run out. That's going to be really important because there's only, you can only have up to 4, and I don't think he plays a full complement of them. So, you've got, let's say we ignore the Radiant Greninja. We want to go for the perfect 6 prizes.
Yes.
We've already dropped 110 with that earlier Cramorant. That's going to bring us
and
to...
then 2 Lost Mines as well.
So 730
or 1 Lost Mine,
is required. So just on Lost Mines alone, we're going to need 6.
Yeah.
Actually, it might be more. 6 isn't going to be enough.
Yeah, 7 turns.
6 is going to be actually a little bit short.
You would need to work in some of the Zigzagoon type of damage counters, right? Yeah.
So actually, you've got 8. Let's just take the complement of the Origin Form Palkia V-Star. That's 840. Take it down 730 when you... 6 Lost Mines would be 720. So you do need that Galarian Zigzagoon in there. That would then put it at an even 6 for you as well.
So Kian will take this KO with the Cramorant. I think Kian's maybe one hope at this point is that Anthony can't get a second energy on the third Origin Form Palkia if somehow Anthony was unable to draw into it. He's already used a bunch of buckets, and we haven't seen a Melanie or anything like that. But I think bad news for Kian is going to be Anthony did take a Melanie off the prize cards.
Yeah, and honestly, this Cramorant, one of them's already been rescued, being able to get pulled back, to be able to try and, help out a little bit there. But you're going to run out of Cramorants as well. And also, any turn that you're spending with Cramorant is a turn you're actually missing out on a little bit of damage. So these numbers, so hilariously awkward. Just so tantalizingly close, I think, in a lot of cases here.
Quick Ball will ditch the Manaphy, so it does put a low HP Pokemon in the discard pile. So that is relevant for some, echoing horn shenanigans. That does breathe a little life into Kian's strategy, and Sobble hits the hand. Is it now finally time to put a Sobble down? I would be really surprised to see that after Anthony's played this early game like that.
After I did all the numbers as well and showed how difficult it was going to be. Yeah, he's just going to throw me down the Sobbles and the, the Radiant Greninjas and stuff. But no, just maybe trying to keep things a little bit safer. There is the Melanie, though. That's going to be the supporter of choice. Go in. There's one of those water energies. Bam. That one's set up. Nice and ready to go.
I think he just wanted to thin a card out of the deck before playing the Melanie, most likely. He doesn't want to draw into Sobble, so take it out of the deck and draw 3 other cards instead.
Yeah, why not? I mean, it makes a lot of sense. There is going to be an Echoing Horn of his own as well. But, this Cramorant's going to get knocked out. That's as simple as. It did have to expend resources to get the Cramorant back. And then that resource could be used for something like the Charizard. I mean, obviously, the other thing we do have to be conscious of is, the ability to access the Charizard.
And that is huge. The double cross switcher from Anthony, taking out the Sableye that has an energy on it. That's -1 damage counter. Sure, Kian can still launch a attack with the Cramorants, but you take away the options by getting rid of the Sableye.
Yeah, the Sableye is going to be big, and also, you know, you need. I think that the Radiant Charizard is the way out of this game for Kian. But my big concern is, will he be able to find it at that opportune time? Because he is going to have to kind of work through these Palkia, and it's going to take a couple of turns. And in that turn, Anthony's going to keep taking prizes. There is a Fire Energy thrown into the discard. Yeah, there's the Radiant Charizard.
The Radiant Charizard is definitely a big part of this puzzle for sure.
Yep.
So that's the way that Kian can kind of counteract this strategy. And he was planning ahead for this by placing 3 damage counters on each of these Palkia. And he has the Magma Basin, so he's maybe doing this play a turn earlier than Anthony Perez was anticipating. Yeah,
there is the Radiant Charizard. All my numbers completely out the window, as it's going to be huge, huge damage from this. I think the line of play where you were just spreading is enough. But the Combustion Blast, I mean, here's my concern, is if this Radiant Charizard gets knocked out,
in combination with like a Roxanne or something like that.
Yes, well, are the resources there as well for him to get it back? We've already seen Clara getting played as well. Obviously, there's the Power Pad as well. Oh, there's the Roxanne.
Kian plays his own Roxanne, making it less likely for Anthony. So this was a really interesting line from Anthony to play the game like this, and now it's Kian maybe finding the way to punish Anthony for not using any shady dealings through this game.
I mean, honestly, it makes a lot of sense, right? You're saying, okay, I'm going to give you 7 prizes on the board. Depending on the order you take them, you know, you're either going to get 6 or you're going to get 7. But I just don't, you know, I'm not going to let you Charizard that easily. But it looks like, you know, Kian has found that option very, very easily and is able to go for it. So drawing up off the Roxanne does leave. Oh, that is a shocking hand for Anthony Perez. But, you know, I do like this line from Anthony, but is he going to get punished for it? You know, we were saying Lost Mine's not going to be enough. Cramorant's not going to be enough. It's going to take you too long. Charizard throws all of that out the window.
Yes. Yeah, can't forget about Radiant Zard coming in and just doing so much damage. Quick Ball now fetches out the Sableye on Kian's side, and maybe Anthony having second thoughts about how this game has been set up.
Yeah, that earlier 30 from that Lost Mine is really important. There's a Flower selecting. Ooh, another one of those Fire Energy hitting the Lost Zone. So both of those, you know, could very quickly be removed from play. But the Magma Basin, of course, will help him get that back consistently.
Sure. Well, I think it's really important for Kian to hang on to the Lost Vacuum, because what Anthony could do is use Roxanne plus put Path to the Peak in play. While that would be difficult for him to pull off of just 2 cards, that would shut off the Excited Heart ability of Radiant Charizard, as it does still have a rule box. So that's why Kian really wanted to value hanging on to Lost Vacuum in this spot.
And this Power Pad is actually really big, putting back the Roxanne and that Clara. That Clara is going to be essential for getting this Charizard back for another big knockout. You know, if you can get that Charizard back, maybe after Anthony takes another prize, you just need the 1 energy, just that Fire Energy. The Magma Basin's still knocking about. Yes, that Clara is going to be able to just draw that back. So, I mean, the Clara will get the energy as well. So that is a card that he really would love to draw into. Of course, Charizard going into the active. Comfey hitting the bench once again, maybe looking to play some Flower selecting. And checking the discard. I think Anthony has seen there is quite a nasty line coming for him here.
Yes.
As long as Kian can find that Clara at any point before Anthony can take another 3 prizes, it's game.
So this was Anthony's gamble. Can he win this game with just the Palkias? It might be time now to throw some Sableyes out, but that does open up some plays for Kian to additionally win with Sableye plus Echoing Horn on the Manaphy and Galarian Zigzagoon. So let's see what exactly happens. Is Anthony going to put this Sobble down? Starts with the Hisuian Heavy Ball.
Yeah, he's not. He's going to find another Sobble there if he wants to take it. Seems like that's going to be the option. Shuffling up the hand. Yep, he's put that one back in. Thank you very much. Of course, there's some supporters in there as well, but lays those out. I think as well. You know, could redraw that Hisuian Heavy Ball, not something like that Roxanne. And that Roxanne has just been stuck in the prizes.
And now Anthony does take a KO. Did choose to put Sobble down. Wants to have some sort of out. Okay, it's up to Kian here. If he can find the Clara, that's all he needs. Clara gets him the game, grabbing back the Radiant Charizard, back the Fire Energy. He even has Magma Basin, and Charizard able to easily KO this Origin form Palkia V-Star.
Nice, easy game for Kian Amini, showing the power of this Lost Zone with Charizard. We were talking so much about the Lost Zone. We just see how impactful that late-game Charizard is for him there. Brings it in a turn early. Not everyone goes for it until the Excited Heart is fully activated. But if you can get it down, you've got the Magma Basin. Why not?
Yeah, and that's a huge inclusion from Kian. Many players have kind of moved away from the Magma Basin in this deck. Toward Reklev, of course, winning the Peoria Regionals with 4 Path to the Peak in his deck. I think if players aren't playing Path anymore, they're kind of leaning into the Pokestop as a consistency option. So Kian choosing this energy recursion effect has really paid off for him. He was able to attack with Radiant Charizard maybe a turn before Anthony Perez was expecting, and it got him a win in game 1.
Yeah, and Anthony definitely looking at the game thinking, you know what, I just don't think he's going to be able to get there with these little bits of damage. 11 and, 110 or 12 damage counters just isn't enough. As we were doing the numbers, I was thinking that is going to be so slow. That's so many turns that you have to work through. Yeah, 240 odd is definitely getting you there.
Yeah, that is, this play from Anthony, his decision, the way he tried to set that game up, I think it would have worked out great if Kian's only attacker was Sableye. But, of course, we know that Radiant Charizard comes in and it plays a big role.
Well, speaking of Radiant Charizard, pieces that have helped it out in the past are having the discard prizes, apologies, for Kian Amini. One of the Clara, one of the Fire Energy. So if that's the win condition again, is going to have to play around it. The Galarian Zigzagoon, which could have been important, has also made it there, and the Scoop Up Net as well. So plenty of pieces in there, but the Sobbles are a factor in this game. Can't dodge them this time, as Anthony Perez does open with one.
Has a quick ball as well. We'll see what this wants to go for. Will it be a Palkia? Let's see, maybe it could be Greninja as well if there's a couple of energy cards in the hand and you want to draw with the concealed cards. Ooh, and I see the grab of the Palkia here, and I don't see much else to work with in this hand. No way to get more Sobbles, no energy even to attach for turn. I think this might be the one action of Anthony Perez's opening turn.
Yeah, it's looking a little bit bleak on this one, but I mean, it looked kind of slow in the last one as well. It's just going to be the pass. Obviously not able to attack, not able to keep calling in this one. And yes, the Battle VIP pass, a lovely opener for Kian Amini. Also already has the Comfey in the active, so doesn't need to make those kind of switches that we saw in the last game, being able to bounce out that Sableye that was there to begin with. So this could be a very explosive turn. The Cramorant hitting the bench early doors. That is one piece of the puzzle. Another Comfey. Yep, that's going to be another flower selecting available here. And honestly, swinging into the Sobble could be really problematic if Anthony is looking, does have the evolution incense in hand. We'll be able to get a Drizzile, get a piece out that way. Maybe he reaches for it this time. Maybe he's just got the better hand for it. I see Magma Basin. Oh, another Battle VIP pass.
Very nice. That's great for Kian. Exactly what he wants to see. This can get that third Comfey out and even grab the Manaphy to prevent from any crazy Radiant Greninja plays from Anthony on the next turn. And if Kian can get this knockout with Cramorant here, it requires him using 2 Flower Selectings and a Colress, or potentially 4 Flower Selectings, maybe a Lost Vacuum or something like that in there. Could add some more cards as well. So there's several ways for him to get to the 4 cards in the Lost Zone, but if he can take the KO on the Sobble, that is massive.
Yeah, he's been able to fill the bench. Number of 2 Comfey additionally to the active one, the Manaphy and the Cramorant. Let's see, he does have a Lost Vacuum in. Let's see what he starts drawing off this. As a Palpad, oh, another Battle VIP pass. Probably a little greedy at this point, as it does hit the Lost Zone very quickly. After that, we're looking a little bit bleak. None of those switching cards. There is, of course, the manual attach and discard route, which certainly helps out as another flower selecting. Oh, Chorus's Experiment.
Huge.
There we go. The Echoing Horn hits the Lost Zone, and this now means that it's going to be 4. This Chorus's Experiment, though, has to find a switch card.
And there is the Stadium card and the Lost Vacuum in the hand. So
there's the Scoop Up.
Kian could, as long as he's got the switching card, he could get this Comfey out and attack with Cramorant, but it would mean he would have to use Lost Vacuum and also lose the Magma Basin. Let's see if that is a risk that he's willing to make happen.
Not sure about that. It's just going to be Scoop Up Net, get that Comfey out the active, and throw that Cramorant up. Yeah, the Scoop Up Net did get drawn off that Colress.
Yep.
Very nicely done. And he had 2 switch cards, right? He had access to the Escape Rope too, but you don't want to be swinging into the Palkia.
Yes.
Sableye hits the bench as well. That Comfey staying out after it's done a little bit of work. The first prize, Kian Amini's way. Very easy. Lost provisions, no energy required. Spit innocently.
This hand from Anthony is borderline unplayable.
Oh,
Evolution
dear.
Incense can get the Palkia V-Star, but then after that, it is 5 bricks. The Melanie, the Roxanne, 2 supporters that are unplayable, the Drizzile, which he can no longer play because Sobble got knocked out, and Cross Switcher, which you can only utilize if you have 2 copies in your hand.
There's no energy in the discard to play that Melanie. That is absolutely devastating. A real real big problem for this Palkia deck. I mean, yeah, you can get the V-Star up, try and buy a little bit of time. This Cramorant would be a little bit hard pressed to get the knockout that way, but it's just going to be the pass. I haven't seen an energy this game, and yeah, this is really, really rough. Of course, there is certainly some interesting options here. I think for Kian, I mean, he's got a very plentiful hand. Yeah, just going to go for it, though. Why mess about? Spit innocently, 110. Put the timer down. Oh, another brick.
Battle VIP pass would have been great a couple turns ago. Just a pass once again. This is a great sign for Kian and absolutely terrible for Anthony.
Oh, he's going to scoop up net to get that Comfey into the active, and maybe he's got the Echoing Horn in hand as well, so he could take an early knockout and really push the needle on this prize race. The Fire Energy, ooh.
It's a tough thing to lose, but he's got the Air Balloon as the other choice.
Ahead. Yeah. He's so ahead, though. Will he even need to Charizard at this point?
I think it's one of those situations of he has to kind of understand, okay, I'm pretty far ahead here. How do I lose this game? And not having access to utilizing Radiant Charizard, we know there's a Fire Energy in the prize cards and, of course, the one right here, and he does only play 2 copies. So he wants to make sure he has access to it just in case Anthony can top deck something. Let's see if he's got anything at all. It's another cross switcher.
Oh, my goodness.
It is at least technically playable, but I think that this game is over.
No.
Anthony Perez can't do anything, and Kian Amini punches his ticket into day 2.
Wow, that was such a tough game for Anthony Perez. I think, honestly, a bit of a letdown after what we got treated to in game number 1. Kian showing the deck in full flow, get nice early damage down, play the Charizard, and win with another Charizard thanks to that Clara. Game 2, not quite what we were looking for. You know, being able to fall a little bit short certainly felt bad in that one. Just being able to evolve. That was it.
Yeah, that was definitely a tough show of things from Anthony. Not really anything he could have done differently. It's really unfortunate to lose in a way like that, but there was just no other options. That's just part of Pokemon. Sometimes it'll happen. Sometimes you're going to open up with a really tough to work with hand. It was just really unfortunate that occurred in Game 2 of the win and end.
That is devastating for Anthony, but a fantastic run to make it to that point. You know, being able to at least say you got towards the win and in, got to feel pretty good compared to, you know, a good other portion of the field who just don't make it that far. So really well played. I think his Game 1 strategy was interesting. It caught me by surprise. The numbers made a lot of sense to me. But then Charizard, and that is the big factor of this deck. I mean, I know people looked at builds without the Charizard. Some people were talking about it. Do you need the Charizard? The answer is yes, by the way, Chip. The answer is yes. It does over 200 damage. It blows those numbers out the water.
Yeah, Charizard, for 1 energy, being able to deal that 250 damage in the late game is really, really strong. It's tough to ignore that potential power from a single prize Pokemon. It's so easy to put down. But yeah, Anthony now sitting at 5-2-2. He's going to come away with still some championship points. So that's something to be proud of, to walk away with. That'll be good enough for a top 256 finish and with as many players